What's up, Quarter Pounders? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Wave Potter. So today I'm sharing the first bit of studio session footage that I'm releasing with the OG Master Sensei drummer of this channel, Yoyoka. I know a lot of you are probably like, what? How did this happen? Which is completely understandable. That's still what I'm asking myself. And this video is to answer that question. So I won't waste your time. Let's just get into it. Cue the dramatic music. About 2 months ago, on October 4th, 2021, I got a message on Instagram at like 11:30 p.m. and the message was from the actual official Instagram page of Yoyoka. Like up to this point, I knew Yoyoka and I followed each other on there, and she had commented on a couple of my videos in the past, but I was still in shock because I figured it was just a friendly follow since I make a lot of videos about her drumming. But the message was from Akifumi, her father. He said that they were planning a trip to the USA and they would be in Minnesota to visit Paisley Park, Prince's estate. And he said, if you live in the area, would you like to meet us and make a video with Yoyoka? Again, this was late at night, and needless to say, I didn't sleep for the rest of that night. I was in shock and awe because at this point I hadn't realized I was even on their radar as a person. So of course I said yes immediately. I was going to do anything possible to make sure this happened. Like, what a crazy opportunity, what a generous offer on their part to spend time with me on their vacation. So of course I had to make sure this was going to happen. Up to this point, like I said, we had some simple social media interactions. The first time was back in December of 2020, right when I put out my reaction to her YYZ cover. Yoyoka commented on my video. She said, "Thank you very much, I'm honored, and your performance is amazing." And when I got that, my mind was blown. I was like, whoa, this real musician is acknowledging what I'm doing. So that shocked me enough. But then a few months later, I think at the end of February or the beginning of March, Aomi, Secret of Mandala on Instagram, she's someone who works with Yoyoka as a manager. She shared my goofy video of Yoyoka schooling me on the headless kick triplets, which now watching that video, it's so cringy for me. I guess they really enjoyed it. She said my videos really helped her to appreciate Yoyoka's talent more and how difficult the things are that Yoyoka does behind the drums. So that meant a lot. I was so grateful to be able to help with that. Amy is just as sweet and kind as the Soma family. She's been really supportive of my work and I really appreciate her. But still, I had no inkling at all that I would ever receive a message from Aki about meeting the family. That was just still mind-blowing. So of course I panicked immediately. I started thinking about how makeshift my studio was, how it just wasn't good enough to have a world-class professional drummer in there and her family. My drum set was a complete mishmash of different drums from different brands. No tonal matching or anything, it's just stuff I had accumulated throughout my life. My crash cymbals were Wuhan brand, the cheapest you can possibly get that have decent sound, which I love Wuhan cymbals, by the way. It's just not what you typically see professional drummers using. I had no bass amp. My audio interface only had 8 channels. It wasn't enough to mic a full drum kit plus, guitar, vocals, bass for jamming. So I talked to Rosie and she was kind enough to let me make some purchases in preparation for the visit. Not only did she let me buy a new audio interface so I could double my channels, she also let me get a bass amp and a new drum set. So thank you, Rosie, because I just wanted the studio to have the potential for a full band to jam in case Kanai Yoyoka, the family band, wanted to jam it all, more on that later. But this was actually the first drum set I ever bought, like the first real tone matched drum kit, but what better time to do that than when Yoyoka's visiting? So thank you, Rosie, again for letting me do that, and thank you to everyone who donated during my live stream last night to help cover the expense of all this new equipment for Yoyoka's visit. It really means a lot. Now, in the weeks leading up to the jam, I was pretty restless, as you can imagine. I get a pretty intense worry gene already from my mom, some wild anxiety sometimes, and I was feeling unworthy because it had been so long since I played with any serious musicians, and I just had a lot of anxiety and self-doubt about whether I'd even be able to keep up with Yoyoka or what would happen. The night before they arrived, I literally just stared at the inside of my eyelids the entire night, not 1 minute of sleep. I was so anxious about this. But Soma family arrived, and Rosie can attest to the fact that I was just pacing nervously back and forth between the studio and the house, trying to make sure everything was set up perfectly, ready to go, because I didn't want to waste their time with any technical difficulties or anything, and I wanted to make sure we had everything we needed. So once we arrived, we went to the studio. Yoyoka was kind enough to take a break from playing pearl drums to play my new PDP walnut set with my little Tama Iron Cobra Junior double kick pedal, which she typically plays a DW kick pedal, so she's on a kit she'd never played before with a kick pedal brand she doesn't typically use. That changes the feel of everything, but she was able to execute her kick triplets perfectly. Her drumming didn't seem to be affected at all by being on a new kit. Before we jammed, she actually gave me this gift, which was so cool, so kind and generous, and again, so unexpected. Because, I mean, they'd already given me enough just sharing their time with me while they're here. But then Rosie gave her a little gift from us, which you may have seen her wearing, a Wave Potter hoodie, and she was kind enough to put it on for our session. And then I even saw her wearing it a couple days later in some Thanksgiving photos. So that was really cool to see that she was actually wearing it. Now, when we started jamming, first take was perfect. I was like, that's a wrap. We got it. I was sure that they were probably running out of time. They had to be somewhere. But then Aki suggested that we did a little improv session between the guitar and drums, which I'm pretty sure I blacked out during that session because I was so blown away by her incredible ability to improvise behind the drum kit, be so comfortable, so solid, even when she doesn't have a plan. It's just right off the cuff. I was just completely enamored, and I have no idea what I played along with her, but just being able to watch her improvise was so cool. Now, during that improv session, actually, one of her sticks broke, and after that point, she had to use my 5B sticks, which are not the size she typically uses. So everything we recorded after that, including our drum duet, she was using a size stick she doesn't typically use, which, let me tell you, that can throw a drummer off their game. And on top of that, she was playing this drum kit that's completely different from the type she usually plays. Like, it's all wood. She usually has the steel rimmed pearl drum kit. So there's that. And yet, like Glen Black said, she just completely smoked me on the drums. And, you know, because she's a really nice person, she gave me some time to do some fancy little stuff in there. But there were a few moments where she reminded me that she could easily outdrum me. And it was amazing just being able to watch that in person. She blew me away with those sextuplet groupings between the hi-hat, snare, and kick. You know, usually with sextuplets for me, I have to use the double kick to get those really fast double kicks, but she did not use the double kick pedal once. I don't think the whole time she was here. Every fast double she did on the kick was with one foot doing her double strokes on the kick. They're just so effortless for her. When I saw her play that fill, again, my brain just went on standby. I was on autopilot. I was like, is this real life? Is this really happening? That's why I just have a goofy, dopey smirk on my face the whole time during that drum duet video, because I was so in shock and starstruck. Now, at some point, Yoyoka said that she really liked my blue hat, and so of course I put it on, and it's been my go-to hat since, because if Yoyoka thinks it's cool, then it's cool. After that, we went back and played another take of the song that we had planned ahead of time, which I still don't want to spoil yet, but then we played a couple more classic tracks that we hadn't discussed ahead of time, just off the cuff, and they went actually really well. They were really tight. I mean, I wasn't surprised that Yoyoka was able to be tight on them, but I was surprised that I was able to keep up and just have a nice, tight, solid jam. And so it was just such a great experience. I don't know if either of those will ever make it to YouTube just for quality control. I'll have to see in the editing process if they are worthy of sharing, but her ability to improvise solidly just continued to blow my mind throughout the entire time I spent with her, which I'll talk about more in my next video about this, which means now I need to explain why there will be a next video about this. After we jammed and got some good footage, we went in the house and checked in on Shido, who was very content sitting on the couch playing Switch, watching a movie. Rosie was actually here. She was working. She's a nanny, but she had brought one of her nanny kids to our house so she could help out while the Somas were here with hospitality and everything. And her boss was kind enough to let her bring the kid over here. And so Shido and Rosie's nanny kid were watching a movie together and just, got along just fine like kids do. But I figured they were getting ready to go. Aki and Ri were starting to discuss their plans for the next day, I figured. They told us they were going to be playing a concert at the Creative Arts School in St. Paul, but they hadn't had a chance to practice on their trip because, they're on the road a lot. So Aki asked if they could use my studio to practice, which of course I was like, yeah, and I was so glad that I got it set up for a full band at that point. He said that the ride would be there at 4:30 and that she could also translate when she got there, because up to this point we had to just use the Google Translate app to be able to communicate for most things. I was like, of course. I set up Ri on the bass, Aki played my guitar, Shido took the mic, and of course Yoyoka on the drums, and I got to sit in my garage and watch Kanei Yoyoka rehearse. And I just sat there and savored it. It was like once in a lifetime opportunity to be able to watch this band play. It was amazing. As a family, they have such phenomenal chemistry, such a tight sound, and it was just one of the coolest experiences of my life. But after that, their translator and their ride showed up. By the way, if you see this, thank you so much, Martha, for your help. So from then on, it was much easier to communicate. We filmed some intros for each of our channels, and unfortunately, my mind went absolutely blank when they asked if I had any questions, because I'm already a terrible interviewer, but I was also starstruck, nervous as heck, and I wish I could go back and prepare some questions ahead of time. But after that, Aki started talking to the translator. I had no idea what they were saying, but I figured they were just, they have places to be. They were just getting ready to head out. But then Martha delivered another message that completely shocked me. She said Aki was wondering if I'd want to play guitar with them on a couple songs at the concert the next day. And I was blown away. I obviously didn't have to think about it at all. I said yes reflexively, but that moment was just a perfect illustration of why the Soma family is so beloved. They're so kind. This was their first time playing on stage as a family band in America, and they asked me to be a part of it. It was just mind-blowing. So I got to spend another day with the Somas, and I plan to make another video discussing that day and talking about it. So please leave any questions you have that you'd like me to answer in the next video, or let me know any other things you want to hear about from the time they were here. I'll try my best to include everything in the next video, but I don't know if the family realizes how much this meant to me. The fact that after spending some time jamming with me in the studio, they were willing to let me come on stage with them for their first live show in America, it really reignited a confidence in me as a musician in my own musical abilities, because you all know how much their opinion is worth to me. And recently I've been dealing with a lot of health issues that are better now that I'm working out every day, but I was at a point when they had reached out to us where I just had no joy in my own music, and I literally only enjoyed watching other people play because I was like, I just don't have it in me anymore. And I think it's easy for a one-man band to get into a rut because you're only playing with yourself. You're not feeding off the energy of other musicians, and once your candle kind of burns out, you kind of run out of energy unless you're playing with other musicians. So the Soma family reawakened my desire to get back into playing music and reminded me how much joy it brings you to play with other musicians. So thank you to the Soma family. I didn't know that they could make any more of an impact on my life than they already have, but they did. I'm so grateful for this. So anyway, in part 2, I'll talk about my second day with them and some more mind-blowing experiences from that. But that's where I'm going to wrap this video up. So if you enjoyed, don't forget to pound like, subscribe, and ring that buddy bell. Thank you so much to the Soma family for making time for me and being so kind and generous. Thank you to all of my patrons for helping make this all possible. And a special thank you to Byron for helping to fund the production of the session videos that will be coming out from Yoyoka's visit, and keep showing the Soma family love because they deserve it. They're the kindest people in music, and I'm so excited to see where Yoyoka's going with music. Anyway, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll talk to you next time.